Eric, since I know you love common and uncommon cards.
Yeah, that's what they know me for.
Oh, fuck yeah. I don't have to talk at all this episode.
No, Christian, you're talking about every mythic and rare.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to judge the mythic and rares of this set.
Eric, read us Airlift Chaplain.
Okay, Airlift Chaplain is 2 and a white for a 1/1 human cleric with flying. When Airlift Chaplain enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. You may put a plains card or a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you don't, put a +1/+1 counter on Airlift Chaplain.
So there are like almost no white cards that mill you. And mill isn't obviously something that you want to be doing too much in white, but when you are playing in those white-black decks, it can sometimes be useful. I think that, generally speaking, this card is just kind of...
Better Explore?
Yeah, it's just kind of like a value-y, kind of gluey kind of card, you know what I mean?
I do.
I compare it to Explore in my head.
Yes.
And like, I guess, do you want a 3-drop 1/1 flying Explore but better?
No.
Well,
And that's my problem. Is like I feel like if it had an additional toughness.
I think it's actually just totally fine. I think that this is a respectable card to be playing.
Yeah, I guess looking at
Okay.
it, you just can't play the vast majority of what I would normally think of.
In Peasant, white doesn't get like the, oh, we've reached 3 mana in white, so now our creatures are just Thragtusk. Like, we don't have that. They're
Yeah.
all like, oh, I'm a 2/1 with flying.
I often
and-"
find the opposite problem where the lower the drop, the better chance you can act like a rare cube, and then you get up to 5 drops. And I'm like, give me a creature at 5 drop that's good. And you're like, how about I introduce you to a vanilla 5/5 for 5? Don't ask about the 6s.
Yeah.
They don't exist.
It's starting to get better, but yeah, it's still
Yeah.
3 is. I could see Airlift Chaplain being respectable.
Let's move on to our next card.
I guess since it's an uncommon, that falls to me.
Uncommons are more Brad's kind of thing.
Yeah, you're right. I'll
Okay.
read
You're
it.
more of a pauper player.
Yeah. So Combat Thresher is a 7-drop 3/3.
It sounds good.
Oh, it's got double strike, and when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. It also has the only mechanic that I am very happy about in this set, which is Prototype. Prototype is you may cast the spell with different mana cost, color, and size. It keeps its abilities and types. Its prototype cost is 2 and a white. It becomes a white card, obviously, and it's a 1/1.
This feels good.
I really like the 3-drop mode.
Yeah.
Compared to Airlift Chaplain there.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. They do fight for the same slot.
Yeah.
Do they fight though?
Do they fight?
I think
Atheists.
Combat Thresher's a solid option to have. The fact that you draw is actually pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you have a 1/1, you're expecting to have equipments to make that 1/1 double strike scary. Generally, you're looking at 2 mana for that effect, but tack on 1, draw a card, I'm in.
Yeah, it's also really cool that it is an artifact, since that does matter for plenty of cards. You know, like white-red decks.
There is a lot of stuff we're going to cover in monocolor sections that are technically artifacts or colorless cards, but then only get their value if you're in a color.
I do think the fact that this is like an aggressive leaning artifact creature in white is interesting because there's more and more opportunity for having the Boros-y equipment aggro stuff, so that does actually help a bit, which is interesting.
All right, Eric, we're back to a common up next.
Awesome. That means I'm up. We've got Deadly Riposte, which is 1 and a white for an instant. Deadly Riposte deals 3 damage to target tapped creature, and you gain 2 life. Do you know what I love, Brad?
Oh, you love you some life gain.
Do you know what I love doing in Cube?
You're so lucky you said in cube, bro. I was going to burn your ass so hard you'd be in the hospital.
I love dealing 3 damage to things. I love fucking Lightning Bolt.
Oh my god, that was such a good payoff for this joke. I really thought you were gonna make fun of me.
All right, let's see how you pull that one back.
let's talk about the next card.
They added Lightning Bolt to White Pog.
Fucking Pog Maple Leaf.
You know what's funny? Because this is taking so long, I've gotten long enough time to stare at this card to realize it's just like a bad lightning helix.
It's a
awful.
bad lightning helix. It's terrible.
It's
I
fucking
don't know
awful.
why it's here.
I don't know.
But it has to stay in now.
Eric loves dealing 3 damage. He loves volting things, Brad. It's for no other reason that you could point out.
All right.
Yeah.
So up next, Christian.
It's a rare. I can take
It's
this one.
finally your turn. Read us Reclamation Sage.
I am crying. Oh yeah, Loran of the third path. You should see Loran of the first and second path. 2 and a white for a 2/1 legendary human artificer. Vigilance. When Loran of the third path enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. You can also tap it. You and target opponent each draw a card. Okay, so the way I look at this, especially in our rare cubes, we don't really want to, make the opponent and me draw a card, but definitely having a white Reclamation Sage with upside seems pretty good.
Right? Like, this is just stupid.
Look how legendary this one is. It has Vigilance.
This card suffers from the problem of good cards are good. This card is bananas. Please run it. You won't be disappointed by it. Yes, it's kind of scummy what they did. It's just Rec Sage, but better in white.
And in a control deck, you and your opponent draw a card can be quite useful once you've already locked them down, essentially.
Yeah.
I guess that isn't a nothing. Yeah.
All right, that's enough of Loran Enlightened Centrist. Let's move on to Recommission.
Recommission is 1 and a white for a sorcery. Return target artifact or creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If a creature enters the battlefield this way, it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it.
Oh, Eric, did you die?
Yeah.
You stopped talking about the common.
He died when he figured out what it was.
I'm trying, dude. I'm trying real damn hard right now. I'll be honest. I'm trying real fucking hard. I'm clicking around Cube Cobra. I'm clicking around fucking Scryfall. Like, how the fuck do I defend this piece of shit? I can come up with something. Just give me a minute. Give me a minute. I'll get there. I'll get there. I swear.
It's not that bad, honestly.
Point out the +1/+1 counter thing.
No.
Ooh, there you go.
That's what I would do.
Okay. It is worth noting that this does come back with a +1/+1 counter on it, which is pretty pog.
And Maple Leaf. If
Yeah,
I had to
boy.
put some input there. Pretty pog.
This is the best Christian I can do.
I figured it out. Recommission is good because people love Unearth.
People do love Unearth, dude. Unearth is fun.
It is fun.
And it's so fun that you would pay an extra mana for Unearth.
Wait. Look, it's fine. It's not that amazing. What if like you've got this in your Abzan Falconer deck, right? And they kill it. You can bring back your Abzan Falconer. Now it's a 3/4 flyer. That's something.
And it makes anything else that had a counter be flying again.
I guess
It's cute corner case.
I don't think Recommission's actually bad. It's common,
especially in an uncommon cube. Like,
potentially has a spot in some cubes, but
up next is Recruitment Officer. This is a totally unique magic card. It's a single white mana for a 2/1. It's a human soldier.
That right there is basically Savannah Alliance.
Yeah, I know. And then it's got a whole paragraph I have to read. It's 3 and a white for look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This is an amazing magic card. I'm so excited to add it to my cube alongside the other 12 copies of this I already own. It is unfortunately one of the cards I'm most excited for in the set to play.
I guess I'll just drop Venerable Knight now.
fair enough.
I'm looking and I'm like, I guess I get rid of Sky Marcher Aspirant this time.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like just pick one at random.
Yeah, I guess I guess I'll just remove Mother of Runes.
Nailed it.
Oh, sick. A rare. Next up, we have Siege Veteran. It's a 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Whenever another non-token soldier you control dies, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. Brad, you know what I love? I love having yet another unique 1/1 token that I have to keep track of.
Yes.
It is a soldier artifact, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now,
It's not even white.
the
colorless.
the plus side is it is an artifact.
Yeah, that's true. This card actually seems pretty cool, isn't it? Huh?
It's
You get,
very
like,
good.
You get the Luminarch Aspirant thing.
Hmm.
You get this card just seems pretty cool.
I don't think I have an issue cutting Abzan Falconer for it.
Sure.
I've got a pretty good +1/+1 counter theme going on right now.
It's a fun deck.
Abzan Falconer was kind of like I gotta hit a certain threshold here.
Yeah.
And it's not really good enough at my cube. And this probably
No.
just is because, I mean, we've played Luminarch Aspirant and it's a good card.
Yeah.
Luminarch Aspirant's very good.
And this is the same thing, but you get a power and toughness in exchange for a mana and a second ability.
Yeah.
You're not guaranteed to get it for everything, but you're gonna get some value out of it, and that's a good thing. I mean, I do love Luminarch Aspirant. I do love how it's like at the beginning of combat, so you get the thing like immediately, so long as they don't kill it with an instant, like, and you can put it on other stuff. So it just Siege Veteran is going to play quite well.
Christian, I want you to tell me your very nuanced, unpowered cube opinion of Soul Partition.
Soul Partition, 1 and a white for a rare instant. Exile target non-land permanent. For as long as that card remains exiled, its owner may play it. A spell cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more to cast. For 1, you could put it in the Flash deck, or the Blink deck, I meant to say, because you could target your stuff and replay it. That seems... But alternatively, you could just pay 2 mana to exile something.
No, so this is a strange removal spell. Being instant is the only reason it's here. If it had to compete with all the O-Ring variants at sorcery speed, you would not look at it.
I guess it seems okay.
If you're in the slower deck and you're like, shit, gotta get rid of Goblin Guide, sure, I'm glad I have a 2-mana solution that he can just replay the goddamn 1-drop.
The Goblin Guide, yeah.
Hey, but they have to pay 3 for it.
Sure, but they're just gonna play it next turn. What else are they gonna do? Draw some fucking cards? It's a red deck.
I mean, they could
What's he gonna
play
do, bolt
a
me?
Rabble Master. Oh, I do love a bolt.
Imagine hitting a fucking Thragtusk with this.
No,
Like,
I don't think this is a good card in general.
I agree.
You want to know my actual hot take?
Sure.
I'm not interested in removal spells anymore.
Yeah, we talked about this, I think, last set, where it's like, there are so many removal spells I can choose from. Removal spells have to be like a very high bar for me to have any excitement factor.
And I'm just like, whenever I see a removal card, I'm just like, I don't care. It might be better. I don't need it.
There are so many good cards of every type now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, you can sculpt and play what you want to play.
Yeah.
Right.
Now we're like, I'm looking for my fetish.
Yep.
That's a weird way of saying it.
Now I want something
kinda
that
right, though.
tickles my butt just right.
Yeah.
We're getting to Bushwhack later.
Wow. I don't know, dude. I'm a pass on Soul Partition as well.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah.
All right.
Next up, though, oh my god, this is a card. When they revealed this, I was so fucking excited for Prototype. 6 mana for a 5/4 artifact creature, Angel, at rare. It has flying. It has, at the beginning of combat on your turn, target creature you control gains your choice of flying, vigilance, or lifelink until that turn. But wait, there's more. This is one of the Prototype cards. Probably the best Prototype card, maybe? Question mark? I don't really know.
Yeah, to me it is.
You can cast this for 1 white, and it becomes a 3/3. So just to kind of run that back, the alternative for this is 1 white for a 3/3 flyer that, at the beginning of combat on your turn, creature you control gains flying, vigilance, or lifelink till end of turn. I mean,
Okay.
that's just like a lot of value.
This card's just good. Like, it is by far the best Prototype card on both ends. Where, like, at its 6-drop, it is very good, just as a call as 6-drop. And as a white 3-drop, it's strong as hell. One of the big things is it's at the beginning of combat on your turn. It is not when it attacks. So on turn 3, you drop it down, and your 2-drop that's a lifelink or a flyer gets the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And then next turn, you do whatever you need to do.
Which works really well in the white weenie deck, and the fact that like sometimes you don't get them dead before you get to 6 mana.
And then it's just your mid-range topper. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a scary thing that you would not expect out of a white weenie deck.
All right, next up is a card for you, Brad.
This is Sanwell Avenger Ace. It's 1 and a white for a 3/1 legendary creature, human pilot. As long as an artifact creature you control is attacking, prevent all damage that would be dealt to Sanwell Avenger Ace. Whenever Sanwell becomes tapped, exile the top 6 cards of your library. You may cast a vehicle or artifact creature spell from among them, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order.
This card seems actually really decent.
If you're trying to do artifact aggro, this seems like a slam dunk.
It's kind of required if you're going to be pushing that now, because it's just awesome density for that
really
on a
good.
generically
Yeah.
good card.
Yeah. Otherwise, if like you're not trying to push that,
You don't get to cast for free. You do have to pay, so you can't just use it to jam overpriced artifacts. It's
Exactly.
got to be something you were interested in casting anyway over what you were doing for your turn. It is essentially a free draw in your aggro deck.
6 cards is a lot.
I've played enough Tezzeret, look at the top 5s, and whiffed that
True.
it always sounds like a lot until you miss.
It just hit me that you can't get a non-creature artifact out of this.
Right.
Ah, yes, it's only an artifact creature. Ooh. The body is correct for where we want to be. The first ability almost feels required. It's kind of awkward that you need an artifact creature that's attacking. Although,
I mean,
the tapped ability, just piloting a vehicle triggers it.
I think Sanwell is a good card in the right cube.
I agree. So up next is Arcane Proxy. Arcane Proxy is 7 mana for a 4/3 artifact creature wizard. It's got when Arcane Proxy enters the battlefield, if you cast it, exile target instant or sorcery card with mana value less than or equal to Arcane Proxy's power from your graveyard. Copy that card, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. It also has Prototype, 1 blue to make it a blue 2/1. So, mixed thoughts here. This is not Snapcaster Mage, don't get excited. It does not have flash. It does really suck to me that you have to cast it to get the trigger, because I'm like, okay, the 7-drop mode could be very fun if you cheat him in.
I didn't look at that.
Yeah, you can't do anything super fun with it.
Yeah, they did put the you cast and then stuff happens. I mean, I think Arcane Proxy's still good.
It's up there. It will probably be queuable.
Especially because, like, if you're trying to push slower, control-y artifact decks, this slots right in, bro.
Yeah, I just don't think a lot of people realize that this doesn't have flash, so it loses a lot of value over Snapcaster.
Yeah.
Now, the copy is free, which is good. Arcane Proxy, I do think, is worth testing out. I'm not sure how it's going to end up. It will probably end up more like Seagate Channeler, where I immediately remove it for being a huge disappointment. But I'm hoping it ends up more surprising near the Snapcaster Gearhulk spectrum, but it's not going to be that good.
No, I mean, there's no realistic chance that it's as good as Snapcaster.
Or Gearhulk.
You know what this card reminds me a lot of? Archaeomancer. They both return the spell to your hand.
No. No. Archaeomancer's
They're both
trash.
2/1s for blue.
Eric, read the next card.
All right, next up is Fallaji Archaeologist for 1 and a blue for a 0/3 human scout. When Fallaji Archaeologist enters the battlefield, mill 3 cards. You may put a non-creature, non-land card from among the cards milled this way into your hand. If you don't, put a +1/+1 counter on Fallaji Archaeologist.
Archaeologist.
So, Christian.
It's blue Wall of
No,
Omens.
stop. So, Christian, ignoring Eric, tell us your opinions.
This card seems sick. It walls off at 2. You mill some cards. I think that what's interesting is that depending on the type of deck you're playing, the hand that you have and whatnot, that the line that you kind of feel like you're going for, you can easily mill the 3, put the counter on this, and that's what you wanted to do for both sides of it at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, there are times where you want to mill and you do not want to return one of them to your hand, and you also want the counter, I guess. I don't know. I guess what I'm getting is that sometimes it's not like I have to make a hard decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, where like you're playing it for the mill.
I don't think there's much more to it than that. I just think it's solid.
Yeah. All right, read us Hulking Metamorph then.
This is a 9-drop.
Let's just read the prototype version.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I'll just read the whole thing. 9 mana for a 7/7. You can also cast it for 2 blue as a 3/3. Its ability either way is you can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of an artifact or creature you control, except it's an artifact creature in addition to its other types. Its power and toughness are equal to Hulking Metamorph's power and toughness. I just think is neat.
I think it's actually okay. Like, how often
Yeah.
do you get a clone it uncommon?
Very rarely. That's kind of why I put it on there. I think I've mentioned this a couple episodes now. There's this really fun, not necessarily good because of how easy it is to break and interact with it, but this blue-green cast a Palaka worm and then make as many various copies and forms of it as you can. And this is just another card that you can just kind of win more with that.
Sure. You
So
can
I
get
like
your
it.
3/3 Palaka worm.
Exactly, a little baby
It's-
Palaka
It's
worm, right?
hulking. That hulking 3/3 Palaka worm.
And I just think it's a fun card. Please don't ever cast this. I don't even know why I'm saying that. You can't.
I am less sold on this. Like, don't you have a 3-drop that copies a creature you control? And, like, are you taking advantage of the fact that you can also potentially get an artifact copied?
So, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think we have a 3 mana.
Eric is on, like, gaslighting.exe right now.
No, mirror image. Fuck you, guys. Mirror image, 2 and a blue. You may have it enter as a copy of a creature you control. I'm 19.
Oh, I remember that card. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, that just seems better than this thing.
Fuck me. God damn it.
You know what's so funny, too? This just shows how broken my brain is. I look at mirror image, clearly the better version of the effect, and I'm like, I don't know, I get so much more out of Hulking Metamorph. Look, you can cast it for 9 and have it come in as a 7/7. It's an artifact.
And it's an artifact, you know, because my uncommon artifact Tezzeret deck.
How do you remember this?
Because Eric remembered 5 cards that didn't exist. So at some
Exactly.
point he has to hit one that actually existed.
At some
Broken
point,
clock
the
theory.
fever dreams of my own cards that I've made up, somebody else in WotC has made.
That's so funny. All right, okay, so like Hulking Metamorph is not that good.
No.
But maybe you play it anyway, you stupid son of a bitch.
I'll take us to our next couple cards here because, to be honest, we're going to rapid fire some mediocre things that we at least need to talk about. The first one is Skystrike Officer, the most defensible of them, which is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 creature human soldier. It's got flying, and whenever Skystrike Officer attacks, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token, and tap 3 untapped soldiers you control, draw a card. If it said artifact instead of soldier, this card would be great. Unfortunately, it doesn't say that.
It's Blue Rabblemaster.
No, it's blue handwear garrison, but you only get 1 token, not 2, which makes the math awful. And this one has flying, which is a huge upside.
That is a massive upside because you don't really have to worry about swinging a 2/3 flyer in and being like, oh, it's going to die once. Like,
Yes.
you're pretty safe about making that attack. So, Skystrike Officer is more similar to Krenko because they don't come in tapped and attacking, and Krenko, when it attacks, it buffs itself to a 2/3. But Skystrike Officer has flying and doesn't continually accelerate more and more tokens that Krenko does. But
Yeah, and the flavor text isn't worth it there. The tap
Right.
3 untapped soldiers.
yeah,
This is a mediocre card. If you want to try it. But you're probably not going to be playing it 6 months from now, so don't spend money on it.
yeah.
Let's talk about 2 mythic rares. That should not be expensive anyway. So Surge Engine is 2 mana for a 3/2 artifact creature construct with Defender. For a single blue mana, you can have Surge Engine lose Defender and gain this creature can't be blocked. Then if you pay 2 and a blue, it becomes blue and has base power and toughness 5/4, activate only if it doesn't have Defender. And then it has the 4 blue, draw 3 cards, activate only if Surge Engine is blue. And only once.
And only once.
Which is the dumbest fucking...
There's no
whatever.
fucking It's 6 mana. Come on. After
No
you've
one
already
cares.
paid blue and 2 blue and 2 to play this Sorry. Continue.
This card is just in the wrong color. If you want to compare it to other blue cards, you're like, hey, big unblockable game ender. Just play a fucking Aetherling. It's unkillable. This thing dies to anything.
Or if you're looking at it to be smaller but impossible to deal with, there's a True Name Nemesis. Have fun.
Yeah. There's way too many cards that do its job better.
Yeah, essentially. So, Search Engine's basically a pass.
All right, so let's talk about the main character of Brothers War.
Some guy from the future.
Teferi. All right, so Teferi Temporal Pilgrim is 3 blue for a 4 loyalty legendary planeswalker Teferi. Teferi has 4 abilities that don't fucking matter. He is a mediocre planeswalker who does all the things that mediocre planeswalkers do. He has a 0 that also gives him a loyalty counter because fuck you, that's why. And it gives you draw a card. He has a -2 that creates a creature. And he has a -12 that doesn't win you the game. But it kind of does in a long roundabout way, sort of. Please clap. It's every other 5-drop blue planeswalker. Let's move on.
Fine. We'll move on to Thopter Mechanic is 1 and a blue for a 2/1 human artificer. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Thopter Mechanic. When Thopter Mechanic dies, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying.
Christian, tell us about your fetish.
You know, I've got a real hard-on for drawing the second card every turn. Specifically the second one. The third one I don't care so much about. It's that second one that really gets me off.
Calm down, Justin. I just know Parnell likes those.
So, like, I don't know. Yeah, that's a thing. I actually think I like more that it makes a 1/1 Thopter when it dies.
Yes.
Yeah, with flying, I feel like you have several variants of that, but maybe not at 2-drop.
Was it the fairy?
Was it the merfolk?
You know what? Actually, I'm looking. I'm kind of glad Eric brought up Fairy Vandal. So Fairy Vandal is 1 and a blue for a flash flyer that's a 1/2 that has the +1/+1 counter thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at that compared to this, and I don't play Fairy Vandal anymore. And I'm kind of like,
I mean, it switches to power toughness, right?
But it
Yeah.
also leaves behind the token.
This leaves behind a token, but the other one just has flying.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But you know what? It looked cool to me. All right.
And
Got
that's
some
fair.
more 2-drops and blue to go over. Let's move to the next card.
So up next, we have Zephyr Sentinel, which is 1 and a blue for a 2/1 creature human soldier with flash, flying, and when Zephyr Sentinel enters the battlefield, return up to 1 other target creature you control to its owner's hand. If it was a soldier, put a +1/+1 counter on Zephyr Sentinel.
This seems okay, right?
It does seem pretty good. I just like this. This is just a good, solid Magic card.
There's enough play from things like Restoration Angel.
Mhm.
This is not a Restoration Angel.
It's better.
Yeah, it's only 2 mana. But there's enough of that type of play in general cubes that there is something interesting to this. Flash flying 2/1 for 2 that lets you bounce some stuff. There's play to that. And I like that type of play.
Yeah, card seems decent.
All right, that finishes off blue. Let's hit black. But let's start off with Ashnod's Harvester, Christian.
Ashnod's Harvester, 2 generic mana for a 3/1 uncommon artifact construct. When it attacks, exile target card from a graveyard. It also has Unearth. Like, I understand it's a 3/1 that you can unearth once, and like maybe that's some kind of value in an aggro deck. I don't know. I just don't see this being great.
I disagree.
Do you?
It reminds me of Scrap Heap Scrounger in a lot of ways, and I quite like Scrap Heap Scrounger.
I don't.
Thing is, with Scrap Heap Scrounger, it can't block. So, like, Ashnod's Harvester gives you that ability to block, but, like, the second time Unearth, it's not really getting there. So you're on a more aggressive thing on that. I can't say I think Ashnod's Harvester is fantastic, but what other options do you have in uncommon?
I still think Ashnod's Harvester is better than a lot of other options. It's actually incredibly solid as an uncommon, because what I'm about to bring up is not that much of a stretch at rare compared to it. I do think it's a better card, but...
So, in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty,
Dynasty.
Nezumi Prowler was printed.
Yes.
You remember that? You want to read it out real quick?
Nizumi Prowler was the ninjutsu for 1 and a black, and when it entered the battlefield, you gave something Death Touch lifelink.
Death Touch and lifelink till end of turn. Also a 3/1, also an artifact creature.
Yeah, I actually like both cards.
Okay.
Because you run some crap. Your 2-drop is actually one of your strongest slots, if I'm being honest.
I was going to say, 2-drops in black are tight.
Your 2-drops are actually very good. No, where I look is your 3-drops that I have trouble arguing over this card.
Yeah, you can, and I think that's fair. I think you could cut a 3-drop, add an additional 2-drop. Yeah, I think so. I value 3-drops with 3-powered menaces highly, but I guess if you just get in a turn earlier, I mean,
yeah,
that's pretty much as valuable as menace.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Unearth 3 power for 2 mana is, I don't want to say it's essentially unblockable, but
your opponent's just going to let themselves get bolted.
Yeah, it's generally going to play as just deal 3 to your opponent, which in an aggro deck, there's something to it.
Getting into ours for an extra rarity level, it's not that much better, to be honest. I like Ashnod's Harvester. We have Razorlash Transmogrant, which is 2 mana for a 3/1 artifact creature zombie. Razorlash Transmogrant can't block. And for 4 black, return Razorlash Transmogrant from your graveyard to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it.
This is so bad.
This ability costs 4 less to activate if an opponent controls 4 or more non-basic lands. So this card to me is better than the stupid Scrap Heap Scrounger I'm not a big fan of.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
You're not exiling other stuff for this. You're just getting it back, and it's bigger this time. The 4 non-basic lands is not a free roll. It's not just always black. I just like the starting case. So we've got competition now. This is where it gets rough. Because unlike Christian, we're fighting Skyclave Shade, which honestly I think I just like as a straight upgrade over this new one.
Yeah, it's just better.
And Tenacious Underdog. Tenacious Underdog has the unfortunate thing of being from Streets of New Capenna. But it's a 3/2 instead of a 3/1. You can cast it from your graveyard using its blitz cost, which is 2 black, pay 2 life.
It can block.
But when you blitz it, it gets haste, and when it dies, draw a card, but it dies at end of turn.
I feel like I generally like the play patterns of Tenacious Underdog more.
That's my problem, is I still think I like both Skyclave, which just feels like an upgrade over this to me, and Tenacious Underdog better. This has the upside of being an artifact, neither of them are.
And it's a zombie, which helps Gravecrawler, because we have some issues with having a certain amount of zombies nowadays.
Yeah, zombies are actually way more rare to be good anymore.
Yeah, like that's
like real hard to hit. Gravecrawler is kind of bad nowadays, in my opinion.
It is actually getting to the point of like we have so many fucking humans
and vampires.
So yeah, it is one of those that like Razorlash Transmogrant has the creature type zombie, which is going to help other things that are doing the recursion, like Gravecrawler. But I still think it's not quite there. Like 4 lands that are non-basics on your opponent.
It's not free.
No, it's not free.
No.
This was the thing I wanted to talk about on like why I think Ashnod's Harvester is honestly pretty good in Christian's cube, and I have to then argue immediately against Razorlash Transmogrant in our cube.
Yeah.
But you have to understand the why if we're being like not memers for a second during hot takes and actually like walking you through this.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Christian, Dreams of Steel into Oil.
I like this art. I do, but Single black mana for a sorcery uncommon. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an artifact or creature card from it, then choose an artifact or creature card from their graveyard. Exile the chosen card. I'm not saying it's bad. It's fine.
It's better Divest. There's enough people that do play Divest because, I mean, 1-drop hand disruption is powerful. Like that is the powerful effect of black aggressive decks.
There is one comparison that I'm now thinking of, and that is to Duress, because I do currently play Duress, and I'm trying to think of the various decks and use cases for it.
Yeah.
So Duress is better in the cases where you need to be hitting those non-creature spells. So you're looking to be hitting instant sorceries or planeswalkers. Hitting planeswalkers is not a thing for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, Duress in rare and non-rarity restricted is substantially more powerful because those non-creature, non-lands are planeswalkers and busted ass shit.
Exactly. And so that's what's making me rethink about this, because the most busted things in my cube are creatures, and if they're not, they're equipment.
Yeah.
Which are artifacts. So thinking about that further, I do think there is an argument that duress actually might not even have a place in my cube currently, and I just kind of glance over it because I'm always like, it's duress. It's evergreen. It stays in the cube, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm looking at this and comparing it, and actually maybe this is better for this rarity restriction. I also play the 2-mana one, so I've got Agonizing Remorse, which is just a non-land.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, we would have access to the 2-mana Collective Brutality.
Yeah.
So it's one of those that, like, the best of these effects are all pretty close. Like, Thoughtseize is insane.
Yeah.
And like in non-rarity restricted, duress is more powerful just because of what we're doing. But like Dreams of Steel and Oil is in the realm with Divest, but it's just better. And with duress and Thoughtseize and Collective Brutality and Agonizing Remorse, and so you just have to choose like which of these downsides do you want to promote, type thing.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah, I think Dreams of Steel and Oil actually is pretty decent now that I think about it.
Yeah, and it has like graveyard hate stuff to it, which can matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just think Dreams of Steel and Oil is a solid card.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Eric, let's talk about a 10-year-old Magic card, but we're going to change the color on it.
Oh, yeah, we've got Gix Yawgmoth Praetor, which is 1 black for a 3/3 legendary creature, Phyrexian Praetor. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. You can pay 4 black, discard X cards to exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs.
Okay, so the 7-drop ability is cute, but we're not going to talk about it for any type of value. We're here because Edric is way better when he's not a blue-green card.
It took me so long to figure out like what you were talking. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
What card is
that.
like Gix? But yeah, Edric, I forgot about that piece of shit.
So, yeah, Edric's a lot better in black, huh?
Yeah. And like the 1 life, I don't give a shit.
It hurts, but it's like in a good way.
In a good way, yes.
It feels like I almost have to like make a choice in life, and like it's not just the perfect thing ever at all times.
That's true. And it is a may still.
Yes.
Like it's not like you're gonna have to do that and take your damage, idiot. It's
player
like,
agency. Whoa,
Yeah.
Hold up.
Wow.
Yeah, I really like Gix, honestly. Like,
and surprisingly, it's a 3/3 for 3. Like they didn't even undercost the base stats too much. Like I think it's solid.
yeah,
That seems decent.
I straight up like it.
Yeah, I can't wait to do a black-red aggressive with a bunch of discard and goblin guides, and man, the opponent's not going to have fun on that one.
All right, Christian, let's move on.
Gruesome Realization, 1 black for an uncommon sorcery. Choose 1. You draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. Or creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end turn. Boom, ship it. If you play a bunch of the Drown in Sorrow effects, which I don't play a bunch of them anymore, but I think some people do play multiple copies, I think you should cut one of those and play this instead. I think that most of the time when you're doing the Drown in Sorrow thing, at least my cube, you would rather have -1/-1 instead of -2/-2, simply because I think -2 punishes the wrong decks. When really, at least when I put those effects in the cube, I'm trying to punish the token decks to help balance things.
Right.
And it doesn't even hit your creatures, which is also great.
That is a major bonus of this one. Is it's not everything. It's just the opponent's creatures get -1/-1.
Mm-hmm. So this does have that awkward thing where now this also is decent in the tokens deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of like generically good. It's flexible. It's fine.
I do like the backup of I'm in control. Everything's going great. How about I just draw 2 cards and lose 2 life?
Exactly. Yeah. Effects like this where you can play the main board and they're also flexible enough that, if you go up against, you've got this and you're up against a mid-range deck, you don't have to feel like, oh, okay, well, fuck me. Like
This does
would
nothing.
have rather drawn a swamp. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll do the next one. Hostile Negotiations.
Either you read it or I delete it.
Hostile Negotiations is 3 and a black for an instant. Exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face-down pile. Then exile the top 3 cards of your library in another face-down pile. Look at the cards in each pile, then turn a pile of your choice face up. An opponent chooses one of those piles. Put that pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. You lose 3 life. A nice way of looking at this is comparing it to Fact or Fiction.
Oh boy, let's do that.
A black Fact or Fiction sounds good, doesn't it, Brad?
A black Fact or Fiction would be entirely mediocre and probably just better off playing Fact or Fiction.
I mean, you'd play both probably. But Hostile Negotiations is not black Fact or Fiction.
I'm glad you were here to inform us of this fact, Eric.
I mean, it's one of those that, like, I have seen people talk about this on the Cube subreddit and stuff like that. I get why people would be excited about it, because it's like, oh, you're digging 6 deep, and, like, there's still the, like, opponent's choice of, like, these piles and stuff like that. But the average case of Hostile Negotiations is going to be substantially lower than the average case of Fact or Fiction, just because of how you're only getting 3 and then 3. It's not all of them at once and you get to split it up. So wanted to bring this one up just as a caution statement of...
The only way I will accept being wrong on this is if the fact that the other part go to the graveyard and black is better at taking advantage of that
Yes.
makes it worth. I will bet hard money against it.
I agree. And the you lose 3 life is definitely not helping in any possible way. But that, like I said, was just kind of a cautionary statement on that. Maybe we're wrong. That'd be cool. But we can move on. Next up.
So Misery's Shadow is 1 and a black for a 2/2 creature shade. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. It also has pay 1 generic mana. Misery's Shadow gets +1/+1 until end of turn. For people without back pain, there is a card named Nantuko Shade, which is this card, but it doesn't have the exile line, and you have to play black mana instead of colorless mana.
Yeah. And it's from Torment.
Old people like Anthony Avitolo will tell you about the good old days when you were happy with your Nantuko Shade. Didn't need no fancy Oko.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time when Nantuko Shade and the mono black deck did some work, but we're past that. Misery Shadow is the new Nantuko Shade.
To be honest, it's just kind of neat that this is such an upgrade over Nantuko Shade. I don't think these pump effects are that great anymore.
No.
And there's not enough going on this card to make up for that fact. But here's your history lesson for hot takes. Now, let's talk about the fact that everyone loves Unearth. Christian, tell us about that.
No One Left Behind. 4 and a black for an uncommon sorcery. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It also costs 3 less to cast. Well, the spell, I guess. The spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a creature card with mana value 3 or less. So, it can either be Unearth without cycling for 2 mana, or the 5 mana reanimate spell that no one ever wants to play.
Yes.
Why do people like this?
I don't know, but
Why do people like Unearth?
people love Unearth.
This card's bad. Don't play this. Come on.
Let's move on to our new next card.
Sure, Phyrexian Fleshgorger. 7 mana for an artifact creature, Phyrexian Worm at Mythic. It's a 7/5 with Menace and Lifelink. It has Ward of pay life equal to its power. It also is a prototype card, so it has all those abilities, but you can cast it for 1 black to be 3. Do you just cast this? Do you just cast this as the 3/3 like 99% of the time?
Hey, Brad. You know what I no longer give a shit about?
What?
Vampire Nighthawk. I've never liked that fucking card.
On the plus side, this is not Vampire Nighthawk. This is an aggressive Menace lifelink creature. The thing this is actually most akin to me is the
Grim Dancer.
Grim Dancer, exactly. Grim Dancer had the chance to put the Death Touch token on in certain situations, which this does not have. That said, this thing is also disgusting as a 7 mana card. Like, if you're just cheating this into play normally, like through either being a reanimator target that isn't bad when you draw it, and then can go to the graveyard to get reanimated, or as just a general cheat into play card, or just ramp into it, I guess, because it is colorless. It just looks really black.
It does.
The ward pay life equal to its power is ward pay 7 life. It's essentially just hexproof, and it's a menace life linker. Like this.
Oh wait, am I not? Oh, I'm misunderstanding ward in this circumstance.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it gets the protection if you pay the life.
No.
not the other way around.
No. It's
Yeah.
not
Tony
turn
pays
on.
7 life so that I can protect my
I honestly
7
was
life.
so flabbergasted that Brad was in love with the 7.
No, it's essentially
Okay.
Carnage Tyrant, but colorless.
Okay.
No,
now
I-
I'm more on board now. Okay.
Gristlebrand is really good because you get to pay 7 life.
Pay 7
So,
life. Yes.
This ward pay 7 life is fantastic, right?
Yeah.
I had it backwards. I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
fine. Eric's getting hung up on the fact that its backup mode in this case is the one that looks like Nighthawk, and Nighthawk is not Eric's favorite card.
I do think that is the primary takeaway, is that like the Nighthawk mode is the backup. You should be trying to take advantage of all of the rest of the card.
And I just really like this as you want a colorless 7 drop. You want something, like you either don't want to play Wormcoil Engine, or you want another Wormcoil Engine / Mirror Battlesphere here. Maybe you're not looking at playing 8 drops or 9 drops. You don't want to play Sundering Titan.
Yeah.
You don't want to go up to your uncastables in air quotes. You
The
want something much...
Eldrazi's.
Yeah, you want the safe middle ground where it's like, hey, I want a target for my deck, but I want it to be a playable Magic card when I draw it.
Yep.
And I like this a lot.
This does a solid job of it.
So yeah, all in all, the prototype cards that we're talking about are all winners for me. I really like them. So let's talk about my favorite words crown. Eric, you can read this one.
Are you sure? I think
Yes.
you've got this.
Son of a bitch. Transmogrant's Crown is 2 mana for an artifact equipment. Thank God it doesn't say its name again. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and whenever equipped creature dies, draw a card. It has
It's Skull Clamp.
It is a very weird line of equip 2 or black. That is a weird line to see on a card. I actually really like that.
Without that, I would be less interested.
Yeah. The fact that when you play this as a black artifact, it is a very aggressively costed one, but you don't get stuck with it there.
Right.
Now, I don't think I'd play this outside of black deck still, but it's plus side.
Maybe?
It's more that I'm happier playing this when I'm playing like that 3 color
Yes.
type of deck where like, hey, look, sometimes I'm going to miss my splash, but I'm splashing black.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly where I was going to go. I was like, if I'm playing something in 2-color deck and splashing black, but I only have like 3 or 4 mana sources for it, I'm okay with playing Transmogrant's Crown.
Thank God you screwed it up. I just needed you to do it once. I'm happy. We're good.
Yeah, because the Equip 2 is not good, but it's not that bad. And like the ability of just pay black it's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Like it's no Skull Clamp. Like let's step back a bit from the Skull Clamp analogies.
Yeah, no.
It's
I just say things like that to piss you off.
But this is an aggressive card, and it can be colorless with the caveat of it's going to be best if you have the ability to do equip for black.
All right, so that ends black, which ends this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Tune in for next week where we hit the second half of this set. We're about to go record it right now. It will be shorter than this half because we're over halfway through the cards. We can already see that. Spoilers.